This is the Initiates Podcast. Here, we create space to explore the path of initiation as we reawaken the forgotten wisdom that resides within us all. I am your host and guide, Natalie Grace. Join me every Thursday for an enlightening exploration of contemporary spirituality. It's my honour to journey with you. Hello, my beautiful friends. I'm back. Thank you for joining me. I have so much to share with you. It's been a bit of a wild ride for me since the last episode, which is a fair few weeks back now. I'm happy to say I'm back in the swing of content creation. I really have been looking forward to putting this episode together for you guys because there's just so much I want to share. So this is a solo episode with me while I've been pondering how I put all these amazing lessons and wisdom and thoughts together for you, because I've learned so much recently and so much wants to be shared. I have been really busy interviewing people, some amazing people. So I know some of their wisdom is going to pop through on this episode. Some amazing magic is happening in these conversations, in these interviews. And yeah, I think that's rubbing off on me. So today I am going to be reflecting on some of the big stuff I've learned. Cancer season, we just went through Cancer season. We're now well into Leo season, and Cancer season for me was a really big season of processing ever since the solstice, actually, when I started on a new journey training to be a ceremonial space holder. I work so much in the digital space and in my thought realm that doing physical grounded work in the real world is sort of a bit foreign to me these days. And I'm so grateful to be a part of an amazing course focused on the medicine of cacao, which is such a beautiful energetic medicine, plant medicine, beautiful gift from Gaia. So I'm definitely going to be reflecting more on that specifically in future episodes. But for now, I really want to share what this process, and I'm about halfway through my course, which is a little, I guess, a mini apprenticeship, because it's not just about cacao. It's not just about making delicious cacao and serving it in a circle. There's some deep connections that I've been building with the physical elements, with Mama Gaia, Pachamama, Mother Earth, whatever you like to call her, and her guardians, her earth guardians. I've been doing some really powerful work with mountains, which is so new to me, but it's amazing. Animals and the directions. And I thought the directions would be super easy for me to kind of hook into because I work with them so closely in the tarot. But what I'm finding is so much of my wisdom that I've developed so far on my own has been intellectual. No matter how spiritual it feels and how spiritual I make it, it's still intellectual kind of perceptions and processing and translating of beautiful subconscious language of symbol. And what I'm learning to feel into now is the material connection to actual energies that exist within the earth. And it is so powerful. And it's not something that has been taught to me through my more recent lineage. It's something that I'm learning from people with deep cultural connection, which is such a beautiful privilege and gift. So that's what's been keeping me busy, and it's been really busy. I'm doing 2 fairly major ceremonies every week and mini ceremonies most days, which is just so cool. It's so fun. I've been working super closely with my altar. I gave my altar a really big revamp and it's been really powerful. I've been working with smoke and smudging in different formats And that has been really powerful. And I'm learning lots of techniques and methods to embody higher frequencies. I'll just leave it at that. But I did want to give you an overview as to how I'm getting all these kind of like breakthroughs, spiritual breakthroughs, and wisdom breakthroughs. And what I'm going to share might not be new to you, but it has been new to me. And I feel like I want to share it because, well, firstly, this is my podcast. But second, it might be new to some of you. And that would be really cool for me to share this wisdom because that's ultimately the purpose of this podcast. So stay tuned because I'm going to be giving you some practical ways to kind of shift or deprogram mental programs that might be holding you back from being your best self, the self you came here to be. I'm going to be sharing some of my own experiences about how I am now finding it easier to work on these programs, these really long held programs, and shift them and transform them into programs that are more positive. And I'm seeing the tangible impact of that in my material reality, which is amazing. I'm going to be talking about boundaries because this is something I've been working a lot with since I started this course, and the energies of the mountains in particular have been incredibly helpful in supporting me to not only like identify and understand what my boundaries are, but actually take action on them when I feel like they're being crossed or disrespected. And that's taught me some really cool lessons that I'm excited to share. And then healing. There's been some really deep processing and healing that I've been doing through inner child work that, again, I feel like is being facilitated. I feel the strength to do it through this grounded connection I'm making with these earth elements and with the, I guess, loving support of Pachamama's energy as well. So this has been really profound for me and has created some really big shifts and some really, just really obvious but completely new to me and mind-blowing realizations about transforming our reality. We might call that manifestation, but I think it's bigger than that and more important than that. So there's a lot to get through. Let's journey. So the energies of the time. I feel like, and I say this because I've gotten some feedback from other people I've been talking to about this, that we're in a fairly magical time right now. And I'm sure there'll be a subtitle to this episode that has more keywords in it. But really, the message of this episode is that life is magical. And that's why it's titled Life is Magical, because it is. And this time, particularly for me in my life, in my sphere, feels very magical through all this wisdom that I'm gaining, and then actually seeing transformation just like magic in my life, which is amazing. And other people are feeding back to me that they're experiencing something similar. So you might be across the astrology right now, and that might be talking to you. You might be having more kind of a prophetic understanding of the energies of this time. I know many of you that I follow have been sensing that this time of this year was going to be really powerful, which is awesome. But we also create our own power and we create our own magic. And I feel like that's been so cool. That's something that I prioritized recently. And I didn't realize how magical it would be. I just realized that there was something that I really wanted to do because I knew it would be important to unlocking something that I wanted to do in future, which is holding ceremony in person and having more of a grounded framework instead of kind of an airy-fairy approach to how I hold space. So that's brought so much magic in. And then working, as I said in the intro, working with all these like elemental and earth energy forces has been just, there's so much magic in the earth. And it's really easy to forget about that when we spend too much time inside being distracted. And that's definitely the pattern that I'd built for myself. So, and I want to also say, I'm noticing my voice is a bit scratchy today. I think it's because I'm out of practice in delivering podcast episodes to you guys. And obviously I've got some throat chakra stuff going on. So thank you for like tolerating my slightly scratchy voice today. It's some powerful clearing work that's taking place right now. So I mentioned my apprenticeship beginning around the time of the solstice, but interestingly, led by my partner, we decided together to do a liver cleanse, and that was really a transformational gateway. It's not the first liver cleanse I've done, but it was very powerful spiritually for me, and it's exactly what I needed to do before embarking on this initiation. And it's interesting because in so many cultures, you do fast before you experience a formal or ritualized initiation. And this wasn't a particularly difficult fast. It wasn't a water fast. Those things don't suit me at all. I've had some bad experiences doing water fasting in the past. This was the liver cleanse by medical medium. I think it's called the 369. And it's cleansing with food that the guy behind the medical medium, I think his name's Anthony, has intuited and received wisdom, higher guidance he's received in how we can best cleanse our bodies. And for the liver, there was a particular 9-day diet that I did. And there was food and juices, and it was great. I felt really wonderful afterwards, but I really noticed, this is going to be gross, I'm sorry if this is TMI, but I'm a real hippie and I don't like wearing, because I don't have to like go to a day job, the burdens of needing to use chemicals on my skin every day are lessened. So stuff like deodorant, I'll only really prioritize wearing when I'm seeing people. And thankfully, I've got a beautiful chemical match with my partner where we don't find each other's odors offensive in any way. And so the reason I'm talking about BO is because I'd noticed just before doing this cleanse that I'd started to smell like bad. Like I didn't recognize the smell as my own. It smelled toxic, the sweat that was coming from me. And so it was like my body was telling me, I'm ready for you to take action and cleanse the waters of your body. And it's a very powerful thing to do, because when we do any internal cleansing or external cleansing for that matter, we're clearing space. So we are removing garbage, we're removing junk, we're removing stagnation, we're removing toxicity, we're moving energy. We are taking what slows us down and makes us heavier and releasing it. And so if we're talking about the liver, we're talking about the blood, those aspects of our blood that make our blood heavier than it needs to be, that makes the heart have to work harder in order to pump it, for there to be more beautiful, life-giving oxygen in our blood. So really important functions. And for me, it was quite an emotional cleanse, or I want to say an emotional space clearing, because I was actively and intentionally clarifying the internal waters of the body, the emotional waters. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was doing that to make space for all the new lessons and wisdom that was going to come, but more importantly, for the emotional clearing that I needed to do as part of the process of connecting in with these earth energies. So you can think of a cleanse as like an internal space clearing ritual, whatever cleanse you might be doing. If it's more of an intestinal or parasite cleanse, that's to help you digest energies, and for you to receive the nurture that your body needs from the food. And so when you move crap out, space is what is left. And another lesson that I've gotten here is that can be dangerous, because what do you fill that space with? You might just go back to filling it what you always filled it with, instead of intentionally deciding what will fill that space. So I recommend, if you're going to embark on any cleanse, be ready, have a plan and make a decision and be decisive and intentional about what you want and call in to fill that space once the space is cleared. I also developed a mantra or an affirmation to help the cleansing process. So I'll share that with you now. I am decisively sacrificing and clearing. I'm doing this with full intention to make change in my life and in my body. I commit to clear all within me that is slowing me down and holding me back from being exactly who I came here to be. Might make a reel out of that one. Okay, so I cleared the space, and then what happened? Well, I did a very powerful opening ceremony with my group on the solstice, and it started rolling everything off. And the magic started unfolding from that point. So I want to say the money stuff was the first thing to pop up. And I was finding things really challenging because I haven't had much cash coming in recent times, and I was having bills kind of stack up. And I don't know about you guys, but generally in my life, the bills seem to come all at once. And sometimes that's cool because you get them out of the way and then you don't have to think about it until the next year. Rather than having to deal with it every month or having a different big bill pop up every month. And normally I'm fine to cover everything in the middle of the year, but this year has been a different story. And normally this would stress me out. Normally I would be feeling really anxious about money and lack of money. I would be feeling stressed about what I can't have in order to put the money I need to aside to honor my responsibilities. But this time, and I can't say exactly why, I've just felt peace and calm around the money that I have. It might have been sparked by or inspired by a recent conversation I had with a guest. Her name's Julia Scott, and it was about money. And she shared some really cool wisdom. She's got a program called Money is My Lover. And at first, when I heard that, I went, ooh, I prickled, but I realized that was my limiting programs there, giving me that knee-jerk reaction. And it's felt more comfortable to see money as my friend. So that's what I've been working on since that chat with her. And I'll be airing that episode soon. She works with the energetics of money from a feng shui perspective, which is very unique and very cool. And I definitely trusted her guidance there in the way we attract, or let me say the way we don't repel money, is to talk to it like it's a friend. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been talking to money as if I love it like a friend, and I'm so grateful for its presence in my life. And when I see my bank balance, I'm grateful for every cent in my bank account, because it's going to give me exactly what I need, and even when it's low. So that's what I've been doing. And there's been some amazing tests. During this time, things keep popping up, and somehow the money arrives, and I trust that it will, and I don't allow myself to stress about it. But there was the biggest test, and when I was shown that the universe was showing me that something had shifted, was fairly close to the beginning of this course. I was driving to Officeworks, that's like a stationery store in Australia, and I just had to get some basic stuff. And as I was leaving, it's in a fairly big shopping centre, like a homemaker centre, and as I was leaving, I wasn't paying close enough attention to where I was going, and I could swear that there was no car in front of me. However, I heard a crunch as I was turning left out of the car park to get back on the highway. And it wasn't a big crunch, but I was like, oh shoot, that was me. And there's a car in front of me, and I've run into the back of them. Now, we were all that car was stationary. I was just, about to move, so it wasn't fast or anything like that. But normally I would immediately have stress in my body and shock and panic. And especially at that point, I would have been like, oh my God, this is going to cost me a fortune. And I'm still shocked to say this now. My immediate response, and I remember the thoughts in my head, it was, oh, this just happened. That's okay. We'll just fix it. And it was as simple as that. And I didn't feel any tension in my body at all. And I kind of motioned to the person to kind of go back into the car park. We'll take a look at the car. And I was expecting some kind of damage to the bumper. And it wasn't an old car, so it was probably going to cost something. And it was probably going to impact my insurance, my own premium. And I get out of the car to check the car over with the guy in the other car. And there's not a single mark. There's not even a speck of dust from my car. We were there for 15 minutes. He was searching. He was wanting to see something, I think. He was being careful because he said it was a fairly new car. And I'm like, I totally understand. Do what you need to do. I took some photos and he took some photos, and it ended after him desperately trying to find some hint of damage with him saying, there's nothing wrong. Everything's okay. And then he left. And it was so cool. And I realized now that was a lesson for me. I'd unlocked something there because I had so much trust in that moment. Any other time in my life, I would have had a freak out. But in that moment, I was fine, and it turned out there was nothing wrong. So that was the first hint of magic on this journey so far. And since then, that's kept the faith within me to not get stressed about the money. The cash flow's still tight right now, super tight, but it's okay. I'm okay. Everything's okay. And more importantly than that, and that's so important, but even more importantly, I'm so cognizant of the gifts I have at the moment. And this is another really profound lesson that I kind of came across on my own. I'm probably not the first person to say this, but I haven't heard anyone else say this before in this way. And when I thought about it, I was just like, wow, this is really powerful. This is a really powerful practice. So this is in response to feeling ungrateful. I'd gone through a pretty long patch of feeling really dissatisfied, specifically with the home we're in, and feeling ungrateful because it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't where I wanted to be. It's fairly unloved, and before we got here, hadn't had much nurture, and so there's lots of all these legacy issues that really annoy me. And I'd gotten to the point where I started feeling really frustrated and disgruntled about being in this house. And I can't remember what the turning point for me was, but at some point, I think I was maybe trying to write out what I'm grateful for, and I was struggling, and that's not usually a problem for me. And I had to really sit with that. And at some point, I came to the fact that if I think about the life that I'm living, it shouldn't be hard for me to realize that the life I'm living is a life that someone else dreams of. And I'm so blessed, and I've stopped being grateful for that. And it's a mantra now that I think about anytime I'm struggling with feeling frustration or dissatisfied. I think about the things in my life that other people dream of having. And not all of us are as fortunate as others. And it is a common thing to say there's always someone less fortunate, but that's kind of focusing on the negative. So by reframing it this way, you're focusing on the positive, and also by anchoring into the energy that you have at some point dreamed of how you're living now in at least one aspect. And someone else will be dreaming of the things that you have and wishing that for themselves. By showing reverence and gratitude for the things in your life that other people might be dreaming of, I really do believe you are sharing that frequency with them as well. And you're sending them prayers to help them attune with what you have, rather than sending pity for someone who's less fortunate than you. So I think this is a super powerful practice. And if this is still a bit trying to understand, what is it that I have that's a dream life for someone else? My life isn't my dream, Our dreams are evolving, and there will be some things that you dreamed of that you have now that you didn't. Something as simple as a car. If you have a car, think of your teenage self before you were old enough to get your license and how desperately you would have loved the freedom that a car could give you. That's something that so many people might not be able to afford or be old enough to have. And they would love, they dream of, and you have that, and that's cool. You can reflect on that. You might live in a Western country and other people wish they lived in an environment that you live in where there's greater access to luxury and comfort and more opportunities. You can find gratitude and reverence for the children that you have, or the pets, or the partner. Those are things that people also dream of. Even something as simple as being to feel the sun. So people who aren't in your hemisphere, when your summer is their winter, they might be desperately seeking to feel the sun on their face. And it's something you have that someone else is dreaming of in that exact moment that you can be grateful for. Okay, so that was a super, super powerful lesson for me, and one that I'm going to take forward for the rest of my life. And I invite you and encourage you to share that with as many people as you can. Okay, another one that I've been working with a lot is personal responsibility for how I feel about where my life is at. This can be big stuff, or it could be really petty little stuff in the moment. And often when we feel dissatisfied and we're complaining, we're not complaining about ourselves. We're complaining about other people and what they're doing to us to make our life harder than it needs to be. And I've really noticed it just this week, that I'll be in my mind or even vocalizing my complaint, say to my partner about something that I'm not happy about. An example of this was in the car yesterday. I got in the car and the petrol tank was near empty, and I immediately started complaining in my inner dialogue about, why wouldn't he fill up the car? He was out on the road yesterday. But then a voice came in and said, and it's obviously my higher self, right? I think I'm just in really deep communication with my higher self at the moment. My higher self said, if you're not happy with this situation, that's your problem. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. If I want to need petrol in the car, and that's something that's important to me, and so important that I am not happy, then I've got to do something about it to make sure that I'm happy with what's happening. So, and then I'm like, yeah, but it's not my turn, or I don't have the money right now until I get paid, or those excuses can pop up. And then my higher self kept saying, yes, but that's your problem. Yeah, but that's your problem. And I'm like, right, okay. It's this time of radical accountability and full responsibility now that I'm leaning into. So I think that one might be a powerful one for you too. I also feel that way when I feel like I've had a day where I didn't get anything done, and it's really easy to blame external distractions that didn't come from me rather than the distractions that I created for myself. It's the same thing. If I've run out of time in my day, says my higher self, and I feel annoyed that I didn't get the stuff done that I had planned to do, then that's my problem. I can wake up earlier. So there's another mantra for you. With the biggest stuff, so that's more about how to transform the inner dialogue around petty stuff that's happening. Stuff that's not so important. But there's bigger stuff, and this is boundary work, I guess. In times when I feel like I'm not being listened to, or I'm being disrespected, then it's up to me to communicate more clearly, or be more decisive, or command more respect. So these are really big things, and they're not easy to do. But they're things that get us to that complaining point again. This has become really clear for me now, where I will complain about my boundaries being disrespected, because I've set the boundaries, but I've actually let someone cross them. And then I complain about it. And so what my higher self is guiding me to now, with the support of my amazing mountain allies, the mountain energies that I've called in recently, is that actually the most important part of working with boundaries is what action you take when someone crosses them. What you say or do when someone disrespects your boundaries, especially if you've already made them clear. So the first step is communicating them to begin with. And even before that, the pre-step is actually defining them for yourself. But I think we talk a lot about boundaries and we set them, and then for some reason, we're okay with people crossing them. And I've really started to put my foot down with this in the past few weeks, where I feel strong enough. I feel fortified by this amazing, I can only put it down to the grounded strength, the rootedness of the mountain energy that I've called in to work with. Even if you just imagine what it is to be the strong mountain, the mountain commands respect. The mountain, you can't cross the mountain's boundary without its permission. It's there, you actually need to climb up and down it. You all go around it. There's no other way. But for me, this energy has allowed me to feel strong enough to actually communicate and take action when a boundary has been crossed. And that's been transformative for me. That's actually had almost immediate reaction in my world in commanding respect, I guess, which then means that it's a really simple equation. I'm happier because I'm complaining less. It's so easy, but it's like quite mind-blowing that the less we complain, obviously, the more happy we are. And so we have to think about what we complain about the most and start there. And so often it's about other people when it really should be about us. And so even then, it is someone else disrespecting my boundaries, but the boundaries are mine, and it's my responsibility to take action or speak up very clearly, very directly, very strongly, with strength. And doing that work has really been amazing. So that's something else that you might be able to apply to your life right now if you are finding it difficult to stand in your power and be firm in your boundaries and actually take action and speak up for yourself when they're crossed. Think about what the mountain symbolizes and what it would feel like to be the mountain, and see if you can apply that to the next time you're in that situation. Okay, there's 2 more magical works that are happening in my world right now. There's, I want to say, like winks from the universe. This is the most fun part of life being magical, is when you start feeling and seeing the earth and the universe wink at you. And this can be through angel numbers and other symbolic synchronicities. It could be through animal spirits, but I'm actually finding this is happening with humans now, which is really fun. While we see angel numbers, this is something that happened the other week. I drove to a chiropractic appointment, and I went to the cafe first, and I bring a change of clothes so I can have comfy, loose chiropractor clothes when I go in. And I've got a van, so I can change in my van very easily. And I was walking through the car park on the way back to the van from the cafe, and I saw 3 cars really close to each other with 3 different angel numbers. I think there was a 333, a 777, and a 999 maybe. The numbers don't matter to me. It's just about the patterns and when they arrive. That's the message for me. And I'll talk about that in more detail on another episode, I think. And so I saw these 3 angel numbers and I'm like, wow, life is magical. How awesome. But then I get into the car and I start changing, and I see this picture just on the seat, like a framed print, and it was of an angel. And I'm like, okay, obviously my partner picked that up somewhere and put it there, but I'd never seen it. And I just thought it was really cute that I'd graduated from seeing angel numbers to actual angels. But this is being like embodied in human form for me now. And I'm also realizing, just like I can be living someone else's dream, I can actually be acting as an angel for someone else in real life. And people are doing that for me as well. So there's been some long-term issues with my car. I've got a pretty silly car. It's kind of old now, and it needs particular parts. And when we take it to our family mechanic, he's always pained at having to work on it. And so that makes me feel stressed and like everything's too hard dealing with the car as well, because I'm not mechanically minded in any way. And so through a family member, and I don't live near my old family mechanic, so I also have to travel really far to bring the car to him to work on it, and it's just a lot. And I found a local mobile mechanic who was supposed to be really good, and I booked him to come and work on the van to fix up these long-term issues that were seemingly really simple, but just everyone we'd asked to fix them had found it too difficult. This is really basic stuff like indicator lights and that kind of thing. So we get this guy out and he knocks on my door, and we were doing a huge clean in the house at that time. And so our doorstep was just filled with junk. He would have turned up and be like, where the hell am I? And so I'm expecting judgment and some kind of harsh energy from this guy. But I opened the door, and the look I got from him was just like, I know you, but it wasn't of this realm. And what happened after that was the most easeful experience. It was joyful. My partner and I just hung out with this guy in our like driveway. He was so patient with us, teaching us how to fix every issue that was wrong with the car, teaching us how simple it was, joking with us. It was the most blistering cold winter winds, and he was just there having a nice time talking to us about his band and like from when he was younger, and making jokes and just showing us how easy it can be to like fix these problems ourselves. And it was such an important experience for me to have that time, because I was in this space of overwhelm where everything was too difficult. There was nothing that was easy for me to fix at that time. And it really wasn't that long ago. But I was left feeling rejuvenated, like I'd had all these energy blocks worked on as if I just had Reiki. And like I could do anything. See those issues that we had had for so long with the car, in a matter of an hour, they were fixed with joy and ease. And I took that energy into my future timeline, I want to say. What I stepped into after that was kind of like a gateway portal where I'm going to make things as easy as possible, and I'm going to make them fun. And I've been trying, it's easier said than done, of course, but I've been trying really hard. And it's hard when we're going through times where like balanced out with that amazing, like exhilarating kind of energy clearing is this really difficult Cancer season that has involved so much rehashing of trauma in the most beautiful way. But it was just epiphany after epiphany. It's pretty crazy. And I'll be dealing with this guy again, but in that moment, he was an angel for me. And that's the recognition I got when I opened the door and our energies connected. It was like, I'm here to help you with something really important. I remember at like that subconscious level, our soul contract here, which was really cool. And those soul contracts can be something as simple as that. And it can be someone you never interact with again, but they do something really profound that you need in that moment. And you can be that angel for other people too. So I've been getting some guidance from my higher self about messages with things to do. And there's been one in particular message that I received a couple of weeks ago. And I won't go into too much detail yet because this is a plan that's evolving at the moment. But it was basically, I'd met someone who was new in their business, and they'd sent me, I was like looking to purchase something from them, and they sent me the booking details, and the process was a little bit difficult. And the message that I got while I was going through that process was like, she needs help. Offer her help, because that's what I do. My career for many years was customer experience and digital marketing. So I still like doing that work, but I'm very particular in who I work with. Anyway, as soon as I met this woman in person again, because I had to sort something out with my purchase, I literally said to her exactly the guidance I got. I was told to ask you if you need help. Do you need help with this? Can I help you? It's something I do. And she was immediately said yes. And not only that, but after having a long chat with her and getting to know her, and like obviously our energies gelled, she said something to me that reminded me of how I felt when I interacted with that mechanic. And it was that I've been waiting for someone, the right person, to come and offer me help. Like, this has been causing me stress and I haven't known what to do about it. And I haven't had the right people around, and I've just been waiting for the person who could help me to come and say, I can help you. And again, obviously we made a deal in the other realm before we came here that there'd be this kind of interaction. And even if that's not, it's still something that we can do. We can offer that help. We can be someone else's angel, and it's really beautiful. So the last and probably most profound and most important part of this recent journey I've been on, and I'm still going on, and I'll probably be doing this work for the rest of my life, but it's inner child work, inner child healing. It is a multidimensional process of healing. It is super powerful, and the impacts that I'm seeing in my life are just so amazing. I want to start by reciting a quote from someone I follow on Instagram who's an esthetician, like a holistic esthetician, a natural esthetician. Her name's Katie. Her handle is Faces by Katie. And she wrote this quote recently, and I'm like, wow, that is so true and so powerful. Healing is about healing the future, not the past. And that, for me, is the key to timeline jumping. I'm trying to figure out a better way to describe the process of, some people call it timeline jumping or timeline shifting. Other people call it quantum manifestation. I haven't really landed on the best way to describe it because it's just beyond words. But for the purpose of explaining what's happening with me now, I think timeline jumping or timeline healing, timeline calibration. I'm going to workshop this at the altar and see if something comes through. But basically, this is a process, and we don't just do this healing work just so that we can like get stuff, manifest things. It's so that we can become the version of self we actually came here to be. And time is multidimensional, and all timelines are happening at once. So this is your past, your present, and your future. They all coexist. They're all happening at once. It's this life and alternative realities that we have. It's our conscious and material, and the subconscious and immaterial. And then also the Akashic field. So all of the energetic imprints of all the memories, thoughts, words, ideas. It's that living memory, the living record that is constantly shifting and evolving for everyone and everything and all collectives and all times all at once. All this is coexisting. All these different timelines and realities. And so in very simple terms, what this means is that when we take an action in the present moment with the intention of healing a fragment of self or transforming, because healing, it's like the end goal is to heal. And we might think that healing stops at that point and then you're healed. Whereas transformation, I think, is a bit more evolving, like constantly evolving. So let's say when we take an action in the present with the intention of transforming a fragment of self that resides in the past, then all timelines and all realities shift in some way. They all experience some element, aspect of transformation, no matter how small. If you've seen Back to the Future, the movie Back to the Future, you'll know that they are very scared of altering anything that's happened in the past because of the impact that they don't know what it's going to change in the future. It's a really great demonstration of how this concept works. And so inner child healing is really important, because if you think about how much of your present self, how much of your programs, of your limiting beliefs, of your emotional reactions, of your trauma responses, of the pain you carry, the density you hold, how much of that can you trace back to your childhood? Probably most of it, right? I think that's common for everyone. So much of our current reality is shaped by our experience as children, that past timeline. It's encoded within us. And when we take action now in the present moment to engage our inner child and transform something for our inner child, which is just our past experience, our younger self experience, that past timeline, you're actively reprogramming that coded imprint that's actually created this program that impacts you now. You are reprogramming. And so the first thing you're doing, which is super important, is that child version of you that felt rejected, that felt uncared for, that felt unloved, whatever it might be, that created that imprint. Inner child work, there's lots of methods, and I think this deserves its own episode. But very simply, I've been talking to myself as my child self. I've been visualizing myself and kind of acting like a parent or a cool auntie or even a spirit guide. That's probably the best way to describe it. If you think about the spirit guides we have around us, what if some of them are alternate reality versions of us, or even future versions of us coming back energetically to make sure we're okay and to kind of help support us to find our highest path? We can be those angels for our past child versions of self. So what does that look like? That's giving the child the comfort that it missed out on in that moment, that you still remember, that still hurts you right now. That's bringing more joy to your child self, to give your child self more attention. And so it's so simple, and it might seem or feel silly at the beginning, but it's actually really comforting and lovely to do. And it can just be in your head, just before bedtime or early in the morning, before you get up, after you wake, when you say hello and you give your child self a hug, and like you're really excited to see them. I think of how I respond to my little niece when I see her. It's all excitement. It's all like, come here, I haven't seen you in so long. Oh, can I have a hug? Yes. That kind of energy. And then, what do you need today? This is a practice that I've been taught through the course that I'm doing. But this being this specific with the conversation, what is it that you need today? What is it that you need right now? And the answers can be very different. It can be, I might need play, or I might need some fun, or I might need to giggle, or I might need a cuddle, or I might need to sit. And just doing that visualization and feeling into it from the heart space is a really beautiful practice. And in those moments, even if this is just in the imaginary subconscious field, you're being the angel guide to your child self. You're transforming something for your child self. And some days you might be really little, and some days you might be 12 or 13 or 14. I never had a bigger sister, I only had a little sister. So it might be you're 17 and you wish you had a big sister who you could just tell some stuff to that you can't really tell anyone else, and just have them listen and give you a hug. Like there's so much possibility here, and it's it's free. You can do this for free. And if there's some traumatic stuff that is difficult, maybe just focus to start with on bringing joy and lightness and play and fun to your little kid self. It's really powerful. And so in those moments, you're actually changing your experience of your child self, because you're also going to be encoding into your memory that you've just had that experience again with as your child self, calling her in or him in. You're going to be able to recall that memory from this point onward too, and that energetic imprint. So you've changed it for your child self. That means every other timeline changes after that. Every other timeline is going to have this new imprint that's much more positive. Their memory that you were cared for by someone at that point. And if you can hear some noises, it's just Bread. He's being a bit needy. And if you're having trouble really believing this, take yourself back to the most important experiences of your childhood, the ones that have created the negative impacts that still remain with you as an adult, that are really hard to break free from. And if that experience when you were a child had gone differently and was more positive and gave you what you needed, if your child self at that time got what they needed in that moment, how would you be different today? Really think about that. Can you even imagine how your life might have turned out differently? Because those experiences create these long-term, deeply held, usually negative programs that limit us, that hold us back from expressing ourselves truly in authenticity, that perhaps keep us from feeling confident or strong or loved. So if you didn't experience the neglect or the rejection at that moment as a child, and you actually got exactly what you needed, who would you be today? Would that program still be with you? Would your whole reality be different? It's entirely possible. And going back to the Future, like even the smallest action that they take on the past timeline can have a hugely profound impact in the future. We don't even know how our lives would be different if our child had a different experience. So if that program that was created that limits you now and hurts you now never got made, how might you be living right now? And how might you be feeling about yourself? What might you be doing? Bread. So if you provide your child self with what you needed then, if you give them the love and the support and nurture through just simply visualizing, then they actually do get it. That's how powerful this is. And you will jump to a different timeline. You will shift realities. You'll arrive in a timeline where that old program no longer exists. And if you don't believe that to be true or possible, then it won't be. That's the other thing. You hold all the power here. So I hope you can recognize how big a time this has been for me, and I think for everyone, and why I felt now was a time to return here and share some newly lived wisdom, because, wisdom isn't just knowledge. It isn't just information. It's not even just the download. It's the experience of understanding, living with this information where it becomes wisdom. And this time recently, although short, has held so much wisdom for me to be experienced. So yeah, I really appreciate you sitting with me and receiving this transmission. And so I've mentioned a few times while I've been delivering this monologue that I'm seeing profound changes in my life based on embodying these wisdom teachings and taking action on them. But I haven't really described what that is. I've described some magical moments, some synchronicities, some interactions with my own earth angels, which is really awesome. I'm bringing some of that angelic energy to others. But it's really around more ease, more happiness, more joy. And I'm actually being delivered now through situations, through events, through people, through opportunities, what I've actually been wanting for a really long time, but I understand now I'd been keeping myself from, or that wasn't ready to arrive yet because I still had some work to do. That's another thing. Sometimes we get frustrated that the things we want aren't coming to us quickly enough, but there's a reason. We still have work to do, and it might be clearing that space, like I spoke of at the very beginning, in order for good new stuff to arrive. Or it could be healing work that needs to be done so that you can truly understand the gift that you're getting when it arrives. And the gifts just keep on unfolding, and it is just so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being present with me and receiving this transmission. I hope that you've been able to take some of your own aha moments and wisdom from these sharings. I'd love to hear how these words are received, how they hit you. If you want to get in touch and let me know, you can find me on Instagram at The Initiates Podcast. You can send me an email at theinitiatespodcast@gmail.com. You can also come and join our Telegram group, The Initiates Chat. Hi, Bread. Bread's come to say goodbye. I'll pop all the links to these in the chat. Contact links are in the show notes as well, just to make that process easy. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a review or a rating on your podcast player or on YouTube. Leave me a comment. All the episodes are also posted to YouTube every week or every time one is published. And yeah, I'm going to be recording a lot of content going forward because I'm just feeling so inspired to share again, which is really great after going through that insular period of healing. If you have any topics that you want to want me to cover or explore, always feel free to send me suggestions as well. I'm really open to that because part of my mission here is to help unpack spiritual concepts. So if there's something that you'd like to know more about or have me do a deep dive into, then get in touch. Thanks again for joining me today, and until next week, peace and love, my beautiful friends.